Hey, I wanted to drop you a quick note in before we start this episode because there's an opportunity for you to do some good in the world. On the right-hand side of the page at IamSpirituality.com, you'll see a link to a nomination and voting process for the 2011 Podcast Awards. Now, I don't really care so much about the award itself, but the nomination and awards process can bring a podcast a certain amount of exposure. And I put this podcast out for folks who want to know more about inner peace and spirituality and the pain and suffering process that blocks them from that. But a lot of people don't know that we're here. And so if we get nominated and possibly even get an award, then that just creates a lot of exposure for the people who may want to have this type of message. Of course, we don't shove it on anybody or force it on anyone, but we want to put it out there for the people who want that type of information. So if you could, I put this out for you guys for free. I don't ask very much. Stop by IamSpirituality.com, click on the link, nominate/vote for us. You can vote once a day after the nomination process ends. And of course, you can vote for your other favorite podcasts there as well. And maybe we can get a little bit of exposure on this thing and help some folks that you don't even know. And don't forget to pass this on to your friends as well. Anyway, hope you guys are having a great day. On with this episode. Have you ever asked yourself why it hurts so much when a relationship ends? Whether you've experienced the pain yourself or you've been that shoulder to cry on, I'm sure you understand exactly what I'm talking about regarding the emotional fallout caused by a longer-term romance burning to the ground. And for some people, they even experience emotional turmoil for short-term relationships, sometimes where the pain lasts longer than the relationship did in the first place. What's up with all that? Why exactly does it suck when relationships end? Well, today we're going to learn exactly what causes our pain and how we might never have to experience the pain of breakups ever again without having to give up the breakups, because it would suck to be stuck with a loser forever, right? Go! Welcome to the I Am Podcast, where we answer all the questions about spirituality and inner peace that you ever wanted to ask, and where we learn the secrets of humanity and divinity through a better understanding of both. I'm your host, Sean Webb. Okay, so if you've ever spilled tears, or are possibly spilling them now over the conclusion of a relationship, and you want to figure out how to get past that, you're in luck, because I'm about to show you exactly why it happens that we feel pain when a relationship ends. So, we're working in the Body, Mind, Spirit model, which is explained at IamSpirituality.com in the Body, Mind, Spirit 101 series. In that basic series, we learned how all human emotions are generated by the emotional influence system, okay? And so that means all the emotional fallout caused by a relationship breakup is also caused by that same emotional influence system. Now, the four components of the emotional influence system are the equation of emotion, explained in episode 4, the ego, explained in episode 5, the relative valuation system of the ego, explained in episode 7, and attachment of the mind, explained in episode 8. You really should go watch these episodes because these four components explain every emotion you will ever experience. Okay, so how does our little model explain the pain of a breakup? Elementary, my dear Watson. First, let's look at what happens in our minds when a relationship forms. Okay, so before we have any type of breakup, we have to have some kind of relationship to break out of, right? And how do relationships start? Well, they usually start with some kind of body attraction, which may influence you. But then after a while, you get to start to know someone. And, beyond aligning with your body's agreement, your body's attraction, their presence, their ideas, and their conversation starts to align with your mind's preference as well. And this is what we call when love happens, because when another person starts to align well with your mind's perception of self and starts ingratiating your ego, that you feel good when you're around them, etc., that's when a relationship starts. And now we explain this much better in episode 21, by the way, and we explain why this is actually a false love, but we're zipping through to talk about the breakup. And this false conditional love is what over 99% of marriages are based on anyway, so as to get to the breakup, after you decide you would like this person to be more an extended part of your life, you kick the relationship into gear. And the creating the relationship part of the process is where we lay the groundwork for all of the agony later. Because What happens in our unconscious, unawakened minds is that when we start a relationship with someone, they start to become part of our mind's understanding of our existence, otherwise known as our ego. So I'm going to switch to blue as we start the relationship stuff. As the relationship starts to blossom, attachments are made in our mind regarding this augmentation to our life. I am Nancy or Bill now gets augmented with I am so-and-so's boyfriend or girlfriend, right? You get some kind of a title, or husband and wife if you're talking marriage. Along with that come the mindful attachments to the ideas of what being the boyfriend or girlfriend means, right? Because there are ideas attached to that in your mind of what that role means to you. Then there are attachments to the ideas of someone being able to love you, makes you more of a person, right? So then you get the whole love equals an ego plus, right? An ego valuation increase. And then the attachments of how life is with that person after work, how life is on the weekends, how it is on vacation, the life moments occur, right? Those get tacked on to your expectations and preferences and a portion of your mindful attachment. And all these start to seep into your understanding of self, your understanding of your world, your ego, how your life is in interactions and discussions with your friends that are connected with being involved in a relationship become a portion of your mindful attachments and a portion of your ego. How differently mom and dad now think of you becomes a portion of your mind's understanding of your existence. So all those ideas and more get piled on to your ego, your understanding of your very existence, that are all connected with your relationship to your beau or beau peep, right? Okay, so now the relationship ends for whatever reason, okay? The relationship ends and you start to feel the pain of the relationship ending. Here is exactly why you feel the pain. Sadness is defined as the emotion that occurs when the ego is forced to devalue its own existence. Now, that sounds kind of technical, so let's explain the scientific process first, and then I'll explain it in everyday terms. The scientific process is that your significant other has become a part of your ego, your mindful understanding of your existence, your laundry list of things that you would write down when explaining your life, right? If you want a better understanding of the ego, go back to last week's episode, do the ego exercise, and then watch episodes 4 through 8. And so when that person's existence is removed from your world, is removed from your ego, that's a violent removal of something that was solidly planted within the walls of the ego. And because the ego is now less than it was a minute ago, from a mindful process perspective, for the stuff going on underneath the covers, that comes through as an egoic devaluation. Okay, your ego has less stuff in it than it did a minute ago. Some stuff that you preferred to have in there maybe. And so this devaluation gets fed into the equation of emotion, and because that it was sourced from the ego itself, is the devaluation that's sourced within the ego, that the ego admits that it's now less than it was, that is what creates the emotion of sadness. Why? Because if you go back to episode 13, we know that sadness occurs in all humans from Pershing, Iowa to Beijing, China, anytime an egoic devaluation comes through, sourced from the ego itself. Now, in the case of our breakup situation, losing your mate is only where the sadness starts. Because with every little thing that you've attached to regarding that relationship, all the ideas that you've had that have become a portion of your mind and become a portion of your ego, having the title of boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife and what that means to you, those things, the fact that you were loved and now maybe you're perceived that you aren't loved, and what that means to you in your mind, all the good moments you shared as a part of the relationship that aren't going to happen anymore, the social status amongst your friends and family that you're now losing, right? The relationships that you had with their family and friends that are now being removed from your relationship and the definition of your world, right? Every one of those things that gets ripped out now becomes an egoic devaluation that your ego is forced to accept, that gets processed through the equation of emotion and becomes another instance of pain and loss that you're forced to deal with. And yes, granted, it can be a mixed bag. You can miss the good times and the quiet walks holding hands and definitely not miss the fighting part, right? But anything that gets removed from your ego regarding that relationship that your ego is forced to accept as reality that you kind of don't want to lose causes an instance of sadness. Period. The more attached you are to those things, right, going up to the attachment portion, the deeper the sadness is. The lesser you are attached to it, the more it moves towards being a mild disappointment. Let's say you kind of like the guy or you kind of liked certain things about it, but you're not going to miss those things too bad. And so that's why breakups hurt, and that's why different aspects of the breakup hurt to varying degrees, because many things regarding that relationship become a portion of your ego, and then when you lose that relationship, you lose all those things from your ego. And this is why we have complex emotions connected with these types of events, because every little instance of an expectation or preference as compared to reality is thrown through the equation of emotion and causes an instance of emotion that gets piled together as part of the situation. And so we have now just explained why breakups hurt, or why they don't when they happen. So what's the solution to getting over the pain of a relationship ending? Okay, so to wrap up, any pain that you feel as a result of an ending of a relationship, that is a result of how you see your life, how you see your existence, and the things that you're losing because of the changes that are occurring in your world, right? And that is, by definition, your ego. So the losses that you have within your ego are what creates the pain of a relationship ending. But here's the secret about that. With all the things that you're losing from your ego over here, right? The title, and maybe it's not the title, but all the things that the relationship means to you, all the moments you shared, all the social connections that you had because of that relationship, etc. Ending, your ego over here that's causing all that, the kicker is your ego isn't you. Your ego is a creation of your mind. It's an illusion that has become the definition of you in your mind, that it actually convinces you that it is you, and that's why you're feeling the pain, because you feel that there's some sort of loss to your false self, when in reality the truth is much deeper, much more profound, much more pure. Your true self is something of a more spiritual nature, and you simply haven't discovered that, which is why you're feeling the pain and suffering of the false self, of the ego, and its gains and losses, right? That's what's creating the emotional ups and downs, is the ego existence within you constantly creating and recreating itself based on what it gains and loses, that creates your positive and negative emotions, rather than a good, solid, even keel of psychological existence based on love, bliss, acceptance, all the things that you are underneath all the lies that your mind is telling you. See, your ego is nothing but a big lie that your mind tells you. And when you discover the awesome spiritual self within you that exists under the illusion of your mind, that's when the pain and suffering of stupid shit like a relationship ending, that's when that stuff goes away for good. When you realize, hold on, let's turn this off and turn this off and turn this on. When you realize and find the deeper truth within you that is your true divine self, things can pass in and out of your life over here without causing you the pain of loss. And at that point, you can only feel and share the love of existence for everything. There is a path of transformation that can help you become a person who never experiences the sadness over a relationship ending ever again, and a person who isn't affected by the emotional ups and downs of things entering and leaving your life. It's connected with doing some meditation. It's connected with getting your body and mind into alignment with your spirit and discovering the awesome truth that exists within you. And you can discover these answers from within you, so that you know that they aren't BS, so that you know that they are true because they came from within you. No faith required here, right? You will know it beyond any reasonable or unreasonable doubt by starting the awakening process at IamSpirituality.com. You can get on the path. Check out the first 25 episodes called the Body, Mind, Spirit 101, where we explain the basics of the Body, Mind, Spirit model. We're ever expanding, and we're going to start some online guided meditation soon, free, by the way, so don't miss that. And to close the episode, don't forget to check in at audibletrial.com/IamSpirituality for your free audiobook with their 14-day risk-free trial, where you can download what I'm listening to this week, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's narrated by Peter Coyote of Law & Order LA fame. He has an awesome voice. Check it out for free at audibletrial.com/IamSpirituality, and you can get your free audiobook. Other than that, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week, where we'll talk about stopping the breakups altogether and dealing with our relationship issues. In the meantime, know that I love you, and know that I want peace for you, regardless of how it comes. And so please share this with someone that you love so that we can also bring them a potential for peace as well, especially if you know someone going through the pain of a breakup, because the reality is we don't have to go through those trials and tribulations, and there is an existence of bliss without all those emotional ups and downs if we can discover our spiritual creature within. So let's work together to bring them peace. Namaste. See you next week.